We are going to kick things off with Representative Jim Walsh from the 19th District, also the chair of the Washington State Republican Party. Representative Walsh, good to have you back on the show. How are you?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm doing well, Rob, John. Hope you guys are doing well. It's been a really frenetic week here in Washington. We just finished up the 5-day tour that Scott Presler did to promote one of the initiatives that's out gathering signatures right now and really promote all three of the ones that are out gathering signatures.
You know, it's interesting. We saw that last week that Scott Presler, whose social media moniker is The Persistence, and he's been front and center as far as registering people to vote, a number of other things since going back to the 2016 election. He's been asked a few times to come to Washington State. How did you get him this time?
Well, we have been talking to him for a while. It's true. He's particularly interested, like you say, in election reform and election activism and integrity issues. He's an East Coast guy mostly, and he's done most of his political work like in Pennsylvania and New Jersey and did some in Texas. He focuses a lot on registering people to vote and the mechanics of voter registration, like how that works, how you do it, how different states do it. And the initiative, one of the three initiatives that's out now, is the one that deals with Washington's voter registration processes and basically requires proof of citizenship when you register to vote in Washington State, which right now is not required. And that appealed to him. I mean, that's right in his wheelhouse. And we've been talking back and forth, and I've known him slightly in the past. A couple of other people here in Washington have worked with him in the past. So we had a couple of angles of connection to Presler. But he was really interested in the fact that we're trying to reform our voter registration process. So he promised me a few months ago he'd come out after the November elections, the general elections, and he kept to his word. He came out, and it was 5 days, and he did 2 or 3 events every day, hundreds of people at each of the events. They were focused around the one initiative to require proof of citizenship when you register to vote. But he also talked about the other initiatives. There's one that would restore the Parents' Bill of Rights, and there's one that would make it clear in state law that boys can't play girls' sports. But the focus of Presler's talk and his interest, of course, is voter registration. And we went all around the state, and hundreds of people showed up. They signed the initiatives. They took blank petitions to go get other people to sign. It was a really great week.
Fantastic. And it's unfortunate we have to run initiatives like that in a state where things it just seems like it's common sense that boys shouldn't play girls' sports, but we have to put it in state law.
Yeah. Yeah, or the idea people don't even know that when you register to vote in Washington, you don't have to show you're a citizen.
Yep.
I mean, most people assume you do. And some of the sneaky ones on the left in this state say that you do. But the truth is you don't. Under our law, all there is you check a box that says you're a citizen and you're able to vote. But nobody checks. The state secretary of state who oversees elections doesn't check. The Department of Licensing, which in our state, because we've got motor voter, we've got automatic voter registration, they issue a lot of voter registration through the driver's license and ID process. They don't check. Nobody checks if the person registering to vote is an actual citizen.
No, because we have enough things in state law to prevent you from asking that information as it is.
No kidding. Yeah.
So it's like we set it up that way so that it works that way. But I want to ask you a few things about the Citizenship Initiative because I have no question, no doubt in my mind there's going to be enough signatures, no doubt in my mind that it is going to pass the muster through the Secretary of State's office. There'll be enough registered voters who will sign it. It will get on the ballot. Say it is passed, which I would like to think that is also going to happen, but you never know with our system set up. Will it have a retroactive effect, or will it be from acceptance by the voters, whatever date it takes effect forward?
Both but more the first thing you said. It's not really retroactive. Here's how it works. The initiative says that voters have to provide proof of citizenship in order to be properly registered to vote in Washington State. Now, that applies on a going forward basis to new voters newly registering. There is other law, there's existing state law that describes how the county election officials in the 39 counties have to manage their voter databases. And what the initiative does is it connects to that already existing language that says that the county officials, and usually it's your county auditor who's in charge of overseeing the county's election databases, have to update and check those databases on what the existing state law calls an ongoing basis. So the initiative does connect with existing law, already on the books law, that would charge the local election officials with basically auditing their election databases, their voter databases, and confirming citizenship of the existing registered voters. So if you are a registered voter, at some point in a 2-year period, you would have to provide your county auditor with some proof that you are a citizen. So it is both prospective and retrospective.
It's about as comprehensive as we could ask for.
Yeah, basically. And the other thing I want to point out, too, is there's a lot of criticism of it already, saying that somehow the initiative requires people to get enhanced driver's licenses. That is a real ID compliant Washington State enhanced driver's license. Mm-hmm. That is not true. The initiative describes the different documents you can use to establish citizenship. The enhanced driver's license is one of them. That's true, but it is not the only way. There are other ways you can establish your citizenship under the initiative that do not require you to get an enhanced driver's license. You can have a birth certificate. You can have, if you're a naturalized citizen, you can have your naturalization documents. You can use a passport. There are a number of different options for establishing that you're a citizen. So if you hear people say it forces you to get an enhanced driver's license, it does not.
We're talking with Representative Jim Walsh here on the Bottom Line. Now, Representative Walsh, every time you turn around, there's an assault on something in Washington State against the general populace. And it seems one of the latest things, or one of the more recurring things that we have seen, has been an assault on the initiative process, whether it's by the legislature or it's by the Attorney General's office. And for our audience, many of them don't know or may not be aware that the Attorney General's office gets to create the ballot title for initiatives that go to the ballot in Washington State. And we seem to have this recurring problem where when an initiative goes to the ballot, it seems to get challenged for the ballot title that's created by the Attorney General's office. And we only seem to have initiatives that go against their ideology. So we're in a little bit of a quagmire here, Representative Walsh.
Yeah, it really is one of these tail wags the dog situations in Washington law. You would expect that the sponsor of an initiative, the person who drafts, writes the initiative, sets it up, promotes it, you'd expect that the sponsor would write the ballot title as part of the initiative. That's not true. The sponsor writes the body of the initiative, and then under our current law in Washington, the state attorney general's office writes the ballot title. And so you get these weird, convoluted situations where the AG's office writes the ballot title for an initiative, and then someone, sometimes a NGO or nonprofit group friendly to the self-same attorney general, sues, challenging the attorney general's title. And often, a lot of us are concerned it's kind of a signaling thing. The AG's office signals to their friendly progressive NGOs to sue so that they can make the ballot title even worse than it is as the AG drafted it.
You put that very politely.
Yeah.
it's that, for example, on the voter ID initiative, on the proof of citizenship initiative, I drafted that, worked with a good group of lawyers and people in policy to put it together in a good, really narrowly crafted way. It's going to be very likely to survive any kind of court challenge or anything like that. And then the AG's office wrote the title, which in this case wasn't horrible. It was actually a fairly, for the AG, straightforward title. And then the NGO One America, which is a far-left progressive group that is basically advocates for open borders, sued challenging the AG's title and wanted a title that was way more cockeyed and convoluted and screwed up and confusing. And intentionally, of course, to try to decrease the ability of the initiative to get people to vote for it. And we actually caught a break. The state judge, Superior Court judge, who heard the ballot title challenge, actually kind of sided with us. He changed one or two words in the AG's title, but generally kept the title pretty clear. So one of the things we're excited about with this voter ID initiative is, unlike some of the initiatives, particularly those on tax reform, which are really complicated and confusing, this one's pretty straightforward. So we think we caught a break on the title on this one. But the point is, why do we have a system where the AG's office is writing the title for initiatives that they often politically don't like in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, they can intentionally sabotage, and let's face it, the current governor, former attorney general, made that an art form to sabotage initiatives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, if you can say that Ferguson had a crowning achievement as Attorney General, it was screwing up initiatives. He wrote more bad initiative titles than anybody before or since.
Well, and, Representative Walsh, it's fascinating to me because the majority party seems to act more like petulant children than anything else, as we had 6 initiatives that came up the other year, 3 of them that were going to go to the ballot. The other 3, they decided to deal with in the legislature, but they decided to pass a law before that, knowing full well these were coming and expecting them to get the signatures, that would give the Attorney General the ability to put confusing language on the ballot if there was a fiduciary impact of the initiative to make sure they didn't pass. And by gosh, they confused the ever-loving daylights out of people when 60% of them in all polls said they wanted to vote for these and they were in favor of removing the capital gains and everything else, but they all fail because of the confusing language on the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yeah. People thought they were voting no to the tax when what the initiative was doing was repealing the tax, so they were voting no to repeal the tax. In other words, they were voting yes for the tax. And the then AG, now Governor, Mr. Ferguson, again, was a master at writing confusing, convoluted language. And that additional verbiage, that additional wording on the ballot is called a public investment impact disclosure, PIID. And basically, it's an extra 15 words more than the standard title that's meant to describe the initiative. And it's not in the pamphlet. It's on the ballot when you vote. And he has used it just to make complete nonsense out of what the initiative does.
Are you aware, are we the only state that has that, to your knowledge?
Yes, we are, absolutely. And you're right. It was designed after it was apparent that the initiatives to repeal the Climate Commitment Act, the carbon tax, that was one.
Yep.
To repeal the capital gains tax, that was a second. And to really fix by repeal or limit the long-term care tax, the payroll tax that funds long-term care. Those 3 they knew they were coming. And so the progressives in Olympia did this thing to give the AG an extra 15 words to write confusing nonsense on the ballot.
Representative Walsh, we've got to take a quick time out. If you're able to stick around with us for a couple of minutes, I want to talk about possible solutions to this problem, because at this rate, we're not going to get anything changed if we literally can't get anything changed. So back in just a minute with Representative Jim Walsh.
The number is easy to remember, 509-547-1610. Call and make your voice heard on the bottom line.
Phone lines are on hold as we are talking with Representative Jim Walsh from the 19th District, also the chair of the Washington State Republican Party. Representative Walsh, we talked a bit about the initiative process, a process that's vital to the voice of Washingtonians. Not everybody can be elected to represent in Olympia or on a city council or on a commission. So our voice in government, the most effective way we have in this state, in my opinion, is the initiative process. How do we fix this so that the people, because I think some of the confidence in it, like in many other things in the state, is beginning to wane. How can we renew that confidence that people believe the initiative process works for them, not against them?
Well, the first thing is we don't give up. We keep running good initiatives. And even if the courts find an issue with them, even if the left-wing billionaires put $100 million into TV ads against them, even if the AG writes crazy titles, I think we keep pushing that rock. Somebody asked me about why we have to do the initiative to restore the parts of the Parents' Bill of Rights that got rejected by the left. And I just say it's like doing your laundry or mowing your lawn. This is something we got to keep doing. And if they jerk around one of our initiatives, we just have to refile it and do it again. I mean, we're going to do another initiative to get rid of the carbon tax. Shoot, I'm going to try to do another initiative to restore $30 car tabs. I mean, that's an old one, of course, that Tim Eyman did for years, and they've basically bum-rushed Eyman out of the initiative business. So somebody's got to take that one up. We just got to keep pushing. And I'm determined. I'm with you. I mean, the initiative process is brilliant. I mean, it's the people's voice. And I think it reminds the legislature, and I'm in the legislature, it reminds the legislature who's boss. It's the people who are boss. And so we'll just keep pushing.
You know, much like our founding fathers, it seems that those who were formulating, our state government as well, took the time, took the effort to make sure that this was not going to be a failed process. And over time, like with everything, when people learn it, people dive into it, people also understand how to manipulate the process. And that's kind of where we are now, is we're in the completely overtly manipulated phase with the initiative process. But we've run, and you've written a lot of great initiatives over the last couple of years that I think have raised awareness as to what's going on in the state, the problems that are there, and tried to hammer home the common sense elements of existing not just in the state, but period. Parents have a right to know what's going on with their kids in school. You shouldn't be losing money out of your paycheck every time you turn around because wages aren't keeping up with the taxes that are coming out of the state.
Bingo. And we know we can fix it. I mean, we've got pure policy plays we can use to fix it. We could pass legislation, I mean, not with the current governor, but someday, soon, we could pass legislation that restructures the titles on initiatives. Let the sponsor who writes the initiative write the title. And do we want the Attorney General's office to have a role in it? Okay, fine. Let the Attorney General be the check. Let the Attorney General challenge a title that they think is not accurate or is misleading or whatever. But don't make the Attorney General write the bloody title. Let the sponsor write the title and let the AG be the one who challenges it. That would make more sense. Okay, fine.
We got to take a quick time out. We'll be back with more with Representative Jim Walsh here on The Bottom Line in just a few minutes.
Grab your phone, open the station app, and use App Chat to send us a message. Just not while you're driving. Back to the show.
It is The Bottom Line, News Radio 610 KONA, News Talk 1280 KIT. Rob Francis, John McKay with you. Joining us on the line, representing the 19th District, Representative Jim Walsh. He's also the chairman of the Washington State Republican Party. Representative Walsh, right before the break, we were touching a little bit on some ways that we could potentially get some movement on the initiative process as far as maybe getting the Attorney General out of that process. We know right now things are going really good for the majority party down that avenue, and they would be reluctant to change anything. But wouldn't it be interesting if we ran an initiative about the initiative process?
And that's been discussed, actually. You're right on the mark. We could run an initiative about the initiative process. As you know, we talked at the beginning about assaults on the process. There have been some actual literal physical assaults recently on people gathering signatures for initiatives. And so there's been some talk of an initiative to firm up kind of security for people who gather signatures, and then some talk of using an initiative to reform the initiative process. And I think that would be a very fitting way to restructure things so that the AG would still have a role, but not the role he has or theoretically she has now to mock with initiatives. I really think they ought to be a check on the title process and the promotion process and not determining the titles on initiatives.
Here's what's crazy about the assaulting of signature gatherers law. I remember when that was put forward, and that was very, very big on the majority party's docket. Because if I remember correctly, there was an initiative that they were gathering signatures for, and they were claiming they were being harassed. And then this law comes up and it gets passed and hits, and then all of a sudden it starts kind of fades to the background a little bit once it's passed, because there isn't anything. We're not really doing a lot of signature gathering in the immediate aftermath of it. And then now with the flurry of initiatives, we have seen an increase in people being harassed. There was an incident in Yakima the other year where an elected official there had called police on signature gatherers at a Walmart. I mean, we've seen a number of different instances where people gathering signatures for right-leaning initiatives and efforts have been getting harassed, and that doesn't seem to bother them too much.
No, it's funny how this issue has become less important to Olympia. It's I mean that the mayor of Yakima who got involved in that whole thing a few years ago. By the way, she's out as mayor; she's no longer mayor. So the people ended up speaking in Yakima there. But lately, what we've had are these. Basically, they claim that they're Antifa aligned, but who knows if they are really. They're just kind of thugs, and they're literally attacking, like hitting and pushing people gathering signatures out of their position and grabbing the petitions and ripping them up. And then some of them have like this sticky blue ink that throw on the petitions so you can't read them anymore. They're really being nasty about it. I think we do need to do something to strengthen, give more teeth to that law that protects signature gatherers. Because, I mean, this is a constitutional right. Our state constitution talks about this and makes the initiative process available to the people. It's just as important as voting.
Now, when someone does take, because we've heard a couple instances of this, someone taking a petition and ripping it up, that would be considered someone's property. So where do we land? Is this gross misdemeanor territory? Is this felony territory? Where exactly does this fall if there were to be a call and someone were to be arrested for it?
Generally, they've been handling them as basic assaults. So, I mean, the facts always, the particulars of whatever the assault was or determine whether it's a misdemeanor or a low felony. But generally speaking, they treat these as simple assaults, which are a misdemeanor. They don't treat it as a high priority crime. And that's no knock on the sheriff's deputies or the cops who do the arresting. It's just what they've got under current state statutes. So we could clarify and add more severity to the existing state law on this and make it a gross misdemeanor or make it a felony because it is particularly aimed at political
Yes,
speech.
absolutely.
That's what I was going to ask. What do you think the chances are of just upping, taking a look at the various things that have been reported, or just saying if you interfere with this, it is a felony? Do you think there's a chance of that being modified to include that, put a little more teeth in it?
Yeah, the state Senate has a bill already drafted that would do exactly what you just described. Now, can we get it through the legislature? The upcoming session is the so-called short session. Probably tough to get it through. Might be able to get it through in the next long session. But again, as we said a minute ago, this would be a great thing to run as an initiative to fix the initiative process. I think that would make sense.
We're talking with Representative Jim Walsh from the 19th District here on the Bottom Line. Representative Walsh, I want to ask you about one of your fellow House members. Now, normally it's been kind of it's almost reminiscent of the Iron Curtain, the way the majority party operates in Washington State, where it's one group, one think, not much deviation at all. And yet about a month ago, a member of the majority party from Seattle, nonetheless, Representative Lauren Davis came out and gave an interview. She wrote an op-ed, I believe, if I remember correctly, saying that she regretted some of the votes that she had taken on public safety, particularly those that impacted juvenile violence, and where she thinks that her votes made the problem worse. Did that surprise you?
No. I know Lauren. I work with her, of course. She is a woman of the left, but she also is a person of principle. And she got into politics, particularly around the issue of how the state government and the federal government and our laws and our policy affect active addicts. She comes out of the basically addiction recovery, profession. And before she was in the legislature, she was an advocate and got a couple of bills passed into law that added some additional tools to help a person who's in the throes of addiction. Basically, it has to do with involuntary treatment of people who are completely foregone on drugs and just aren't in their right mind.
And it works.
And these were interesting reforms. Now, from where I stand, they didn't go far enough, but they were interesting reforms. I supported one, and I think she does good work. So she got elected into the legislature from a very progressive district in the Seattle area, and is a little bit. I mean, she's definitely a progressive, but she is independent-minded, and she is able to say, I made a mistake. I think we do need to enforce some laws, particularly around crimes related to drug use, illegal drug use. And good for her. It was unusual that a progressive legislator would acknowledge mistakes that some of us on the right have been talking about for years. So good on her. I don't think it means she's not a woman of the left. I think she's still a woman of the left, but maybe she's willing to look at things with a hard eye. And I don't know every little bit of detail and drama that's going on inside the left's caucuses in Olympia, but she may be trying to set herself up as a little more practical-minded alternative to some of their leadership, who are just purely ideologues. So there may be some clever action going on there within their universe, how she's trying to position herself and what she stands for.
If that's the case, it can only go up. We can't. I don't think the floor gets any lower as far as where the ideology sits and the damage it's done. But while we have you, I want to ask you as well about the latest revenue forecast that came out. Surprisingly, it's down, considering how great the policies have been, and certainly the tax increases that have had no impact on business or anything else, or the wealthy, or Nobody's left the state as a result of these policies.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos is still living on Lake Washington.
That's right. Fisher Investments is opening a second headquarters in Seattle. Yes, that's right. Okay. And Boeing isn't completely out the door just yet, but we're certainly hearing the rumors. There's going to be another shot at an income tax. The governor puts out a very vague, very large paintbrushed press release about keeping investments in essential programs while having to make tough decisions, meaning he's just going to increase taxes and not cut anything.
He's going to raise taxes. That's blarney. Everybody knows what it means.
Exactly.
This guy's the worst liar in the world.
He's just going to raise taxes, and we're only a couple weeks away from pre-filing. So how do you – I know it's a stupid question, but how much more can you do on top of $9 billion?
So – I always bring it up, and people laugh at me, but this is the Laffer curve. This is Art Laffer's old stuff from the 80s and early 90s. When you raise taxes too high, too fast, you actually can create a negative effect. If you're a progressive, if you're a big government guy, you can actually create a situation where your increases in the rate of taxation and the speed with which you increase the rate of taxation can actually result in fewer dollars collected. And that's kind of where we are. They're running these taxes up, whether it's the B&O increase or this game they played with property taxes just the last session where they rejiggered the levies that are local and state to allow essentially the state to keep more of its property tax money, forcing the local jurisdictions to raise their portion of the property tax bill. It's all horrible. And the sales tax, they literally bit the hand that feeds them by increasing this. They call it an excise tax. It's like a business-to-business sales tax on tech companies. Tech companies, the tech industry has been supporting Washington Democrats more faithfully than anyone for 2 decades. And the Democrats bit their hand last session. But they can't. We're spending recklessly. We increased the operating budget too much. We suggested an alternative budget that didn't make any cuts but just held the line. It kept the operating budget at the same level as the 2-year cycle before. The Democrats wouldn't even give it a hearing. They increased spending by, $8 billion, and then the taxes even more than that. And it's not enough. It's not enough because we're spending so fast, and the tax increases are not creating additional dollars. As you said, we do these quarterly revenue forecasts, and they're actually showing a decline in the dollars collected in our various taxes in the state. And so does Ferguson say, hey, wait a minute, maybe I made a mistake? Does he take a page from Lauren Davis that you mentioned? No, he puts out this marble-mouthed nonsense press release, and we all know what's going to happen. They're going to raise taxes higher. They're going to either create a state income tax, which is illegal, and we would fight tooth and nail, or they're going to try what they call a wealth tax.
Yeah.
Which is the tax on unrealized capital gains. So paper profits that you have in a stock market account or a investment real estate piece of property you own or something like that.
And jokingly, we could say they could call it an excise tax like they did the capital gains to get the income tax through. But, is there any judicial malfeasance there by calling the capital gains tax an excise tax? I mean, you have to submit your income tax, your federal income tax, which is not an excise tax. You'd be submitting a transactions list if it's an excise tax, not an income tax form. So is there any judicial malfeasance here because you completely and totally you went to unicorn land to get this ruling.
There's malfeasance all over it. Is there anything we can act on?
Yeah.
It's tough. Yeah. The federal courts generally don't like getting involved in state tax issues. And that's understandable. They generally say, we are going to let the state courts handle state tax issues, and we're not going to Bigfoot in on their policy points. But yeah, I mean, this is getting to a situation here in Washington where I think the bad rulings out of our state Supreme Court on tax policy, particularly the one you mentioned where they called the capital gains tax an excise tax, when the tax itself literally references a federal document which says income tax on it. It's crazy. Anyway, I think this does begin to get to the place where it's so bad we might be able to get the federal courts to look at it, even though it's a state tax issue and they like to leave it to state courts. It's so bad, maybe we could get the Justice Department to at least make the case that we ought to get a federal court to look at some of this nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, when 49 other states call it something completely different, how does the federal government not step in?
And the rest of the world.
Well, I mean, but the current Chief Justice on the U.S. Supreme Court, Roberts, very much has an attitude on many different legal policy fronts of let the people get what they want and let them suffer at their own hands. And I think that would be Roberts's view on our tax policies here in Washington. It would be, if you guys are dumb enough to let these people pass these taxes, then Godspeed, Washington, you're going to reap the whirlwind.
Representative Jim Walsh, we got a couple more minutes with you. When we come back, we want to make sure that people have more information on the initiatives, and if they want to help out in the process, we'll do that when we come back.
We've got Olympia's number on speed dial. Talking about state issues the papers won't. The bottom line is back.
Just a few moments left. Hour number 1, Friday afternoon. Rob and John with you, joined by Representative Jim Walsh from the 19th, also chair of the Washington State Republican Party. Appreciate you joining us for the full hour, Representative Walsh. Thanks very much for your time.
Yeah, it's been fun. We've covered a lot of ground.
We have. So let's finish things off with people. Certainly, they want to make changes here in the state. They want a better Washington state. We know that there have been a number of things out there, initiatives-wise, many of them you've written, to try and get us back on a more sane track. So if people want to get petitions to help gather signatures, where can they get them? Is there a central location?
Yeah, the thing to remember about petitions for initiatives is there's no such thing as an online petition. You have to do it in paper and ink. The online petitions that exist are more like marketing and promotion things. When we're qualifying an initiative or a referendum, got to be a real paper and ink document. So you can go to wagop.org. That's the state Republican Party's website. And there's a couple of tabs there. You just click on it, and it'll take you to a form, and you can order petitions for the voter ID initiative and the other initiatives, and we'll send them to you. And you can fill them out, put your name on it, go get family and friends on it, and then send them back. Also, our partner organization, Let's Go Washington, is really promoting the two other initiatives. That is the Restoring the Parents' Bill of Rights and the No Boys and Girls Sports. So you can Google Let's Go Washington and go to their website and get petitions as well. We do events, as we did with Scott Presler. We do sort of super signing events around, and you will see petition gatherers at public places, big box stores, shopping malls, movie theaters, things like that. So, we're hitting it high and low, but the easiest way to get a petition, if you want one, is wagop.org.
Representative Jim Walsh, appreciate your time, sir.
Yes.
Thank you for the insight, and look forward to talking to you again very, very soon.
Yeah, let's get together again when the session's on in Olympia and we really see what trouble Ferguson and Jenkins and the rest are causing.
Well, you never know. You might you might see my radio face over there again this year. So,
well, that would always be good. Yeah, let's see how bad it gets in Olympia coming up in January.
We will. Appreciate your time, sir. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours.
Happy Thanksgiving. Have a great weekend, guys.
You too. Representative Jim Walsh from the 19th joining us here on The Bottom Line. Take a quick time out. Back with hour number 2 after this.